Welcome, everybody, to the very first episode of the Found Faith podcast. And I'm very excited to start this project. My name is Will, and I will be one of the co hosts of this Found Faith podcast. And I want to introduce to you guys my other co host.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Ferran. I'm going to be the co-host with Will. Dude, that sounded good, by the way. The intro sounded good, so I'm excited. We're excited to start this journey. It's something that we both talked about, kind of getting this podcast started. So we're all about it. We're all in it, dude. And we got a solid team. We got a good team. And I think we're in the right direction, brother.
No, yeah, and definitely when Danny said that he's all in. He brought this up maybe a month ago, and every week since then, he's been talking about it. He's been passionate about it. And that hypes me up. When people are passionate about things, it really excites me. And I guess you're also wondering, if you don't belong to our community, who are these people? And my name is Will. I guess my long name is Wilfredo Venegas. But I do go by Will, and I am the pastor of the Oak Cliff Church. And it's something that I love doing. I always say I love my job. It feels like I don't work and I just literally serve God, and I'm really humbled to be part of these projects and meet these kinds of people who bring these ideas and motivate others to do more. So that's me. Danny, do you know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I'm originally from California, moved out to Texas, kind of came here pretty much to this church, right, to the Oak Cliff Church. Been here for a while, and this is home to me. So part of the reason of this journey is I just feel like this being my home, the community is just something that I now trying to invest in and really trying to help build the community up here with Alchemy, up here with the whole church in general, and honestly just backing you up, brother, backing you up and helping you, make some big moves here. And I think, and I remember this, I told you one time when you were preaching that I was like, dude, you're going to be big. And that's what I mean. Will's going to be big. So
no, we're doing our best with what we can. And like I said, Danny is someone who pushes and motivates. And since I met Danny, he's been someone who is always pushing you for better. You know what I'm saying? Like you can think that he doesn't want you to settle, and you actually brought the idea to have a pod like 10 months ago. Like I'm talking about, it was like a while.
It was a while ago.
And when I tell you this guy, he said, hey, you should start a pod. And he bought a mic and he donated a mic, with no idea. And to me, I was thinking we're going to do a little Zoom thing, hit record and just audio. But I guess Danny said, nah, we're going to do stuff different. Because if you guys could see this set and this camera work, it's amazing. And that's, shout out to Danny for having a vision for what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
indeed.
Since we are here now,
we're here.
And because you are such a big part of why we are here now.
Yes, sir.
Because I do want to let you guys know that Danny came up to me and he said, hey, I have a project and it needs to be done. And he said, we need a podcast, and we need a podcast about people's stories. So I want to ask, what made you even want to start something like this?
Man, dude, I don't know. I think for me, I'm always listening to podcasts, and I think the podcast stuff is just a thing that a lot of people, you could say a lot of people are getting into, but there's just a lot of stories, and there's so many people out here in the world where you just, you don't get to hear everybody's story. And I think, just kind of talking to you and just seeing your vision, and the more you and I talk, the more I feel like this is just another avenue of ministry for not only for the church, not only for us to talk about, but just being able to spread the word through the stories, through the love of God that everyone kind of has, and just being able to have that story, throw it out there, let someone connect with it, and just kind of, provide that love of God for them. Bring that story to where it's like, man, I connected with that, and that's something that I love, something that I want to see more of, and just hopefully, get people to know more about God and just connect them with God, dude. That's really like my vision. I keep saying that, but that's truly what I would like for this pod to happen.
And that's kind of what you said. You said, "Hey, Will, I love what you're doing here. I love that you're focusing so much on community." But you also mentioned the fact, but I feel like we don't know each other's stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, bro, as soon as I heard that, I was like, you're absolutely right. You know, like we can throw around the community word, but if there's no intentionality about getting to know each other, about like, hey, how do we end up here? Then we're not really a community, right? Because we need to know how Christ brought you, to victory. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the whole essence of the Found Faith podcast,
Yes, sir.
Because everybody has a story.
Yep.
Everybody has struggles.
Yeah.
Some of us have had struggles that have caused us to, leave and wander off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important that, hey, I found this faith. I found this home.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we want to do with this podcast is provide an avenue for people to listen and understand that Christianity isn't always pretty and cushy and the happy ending. And I mean, we do have a happy ending because we have a happy ending in Christ.
Absolutely.
But the middle is sometimes a nasty process.
Yeah.
And at times we can kind of put a mask and fake that Christianity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I'm happy. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
But then we go back home, leaving our community, and we have some dark thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
We have broken relationships, struggling with bills. And so this avenue to me is kind of the importance of relatability.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I know that's something you and I always talked about, how the importance of being vulnerable, and Danny said that, like, bro, we need to start showing this community that it is okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So what better way to start than with us two showing that we can be vulnerable and we can still belong to this community.
Of course.
And more importantly, not be judged by the community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy to be afraid to tell your story.
Yeah.
Because if it's hard to tell your story because if not, you're going to think people are going to judge you and all that stuff. But we want to prove that it's not only good to do, but God encourages us to testify about him.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And just to kind of emphasize on that, I think it's just the more we talk about those things, the more it's relatable through the struggles that people are going to. And that connection with those struggles. And it doesn't only have to be a struggle, the positives of things that are happening in someone's life with the connection of God. I think that's just, it's like, I know we were having a Bible study one time and people were talking about miracles and how, there's not a lot of miracles happening. I also feel like a lot of people aren't talking about them. Like miracles can be very big, very small, but those miracles, those small things that are happening that just, that within this podcast, people can talk about and share. I think that just moves mountains, dude. And I think that just is a way to connect with each other and just let people know the stuff that's going on within one and be able to, gravitate with each other, build that community even bigger.
And I love how you emphasize right now that, hey, like we're going to talk about struggles, but also we're going to talk about how God literally moved and made amazing things happen in your life. So that concept of stories and finding faith is what we really want to hit on. It's, so every Saturday here, we have a service, 11:15 at the Oak Cliff Church. And we're going to unveil our motto March 30th. So if you're watching this March 30th after the unveiling, the motto is where faith finds home.
Yes, sir.
And this literally fits, hey, tell me your story and tell me how you found home, which is Jesus Christ, right? Which is your faith, your spiritual community. So what do you think? Let's just start with our stories.
Yeah.
You good with that?
Yeah, let's do it, dude.
I'm going to ask. You want to ask me first, or I want to ask, or you want to ask me?
I'll ask you first. Right. So, the first question is, what was your first experience with faith?
What was my first experience with faith?
Yeah, or how did you find your faith, dude?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a good question to ask, especially because I grew up in the church. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up. My mom and dad were the kind of people that, hey, church opened at 9.
Yeah.
They were there at 8:20. You know what I'm saying? They were early opening the church. You know what I'm saying? If my dad wasn't opening the church, it's because he was sick or something like that. Which to this day, he's like, if you're not 15 minutes early to a place, you're late. You know what I'm saying? So if church started at 9, he's there at 8:45.
Gotcha. Give a little background. Where was this?
Houston, the greatest.
Okay.
Houston, the greatest city. We're located in Dallas right now.
Yeah.
But it's only because I work here. But Houston's the greatest city in the world. My wife is also from Dallas, so I have roots in Dallas. But Houston is still the greatest city in the world. But yeah, so it was in Houston, Texas, and that's where I saw the beauty of being in the faith, in Jesus, because just to see my parents and that commitment that they had, and it wasn't like because you know how sometimes some families you can come to church and go home and your life be completely different.
Yeah,
and it was so touching to know that the same parents that were at church were the same parents at home.
Dude, that's awesome.
And it was one of those things that I couldn't help but wonder, like, hey, what makes them this way? And from an early age, I had that curiosity. And this is what kind of trips people up when I tell them about my story.
Okay.
Because, bro, I wanted to be a pastor since I was like 4 or 5 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know what you're saying, but
oh, yeah. No, yeah, and it's weird because it is weird, right? To think that, hey, a 4-year-old wants to be a pastor. And my parents kind of took it like it's a phase. You know, it's a phase. It's a phase. It's a phase.
Did you tell them, yo, I want to be a pastor?
Since God put it in my heart, and that's the thing. I feel like God put that in my heart because since I was 4 or 5 years old, I told my mom, I want to be a pastor. 7 years old, I want to be a pastor. 10 years old, I want to be a pastor.
But is that like you saying, I want to be a pastor? Was that because of like you were saying through your parents, or did you like see somebody and you're like, yo, I want to be like that?
And you know what? That's the thing, because I was looking back in my life, and is there someone who changed, you know, like my perspective, or influenced my decision? And I'm like, no, bro, because I'm not close to any of the pastors from my past. You know, it's just something that God put in my heart, and I couldn't let it go. And to this day, like, my sister asked me, if you weren't a pastor, what would you be?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, since I was 4 or 5 years old. Unemployed. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. 'Cause I always joke around with the guys here that, and it's going to be kind of mean to say to myself, but I always say I'm not good at anything. You know, and I don't want you to agree, but you probably do. Like, bro, I'm not a handyman. I can't fix nothing. I can't sing. I can't act. I can't do anything. So if God didn't call me to ministry, I don't know what I was going to do. Yeah. So it's one of those things that, bro, I was fortunate enough to find my faith at a very early age, or experience that faith in a very early age, because of the example of my parents, coupled with the calling that God gave me. Yeah. So it was like, faith was always going to be a huge pillar in my life. You know, that doesn't mean it was always easy. But it was, and that was my first experience with faith. So crazy. Right back at you, bro. Like, what is your first experience with faith? With the faith?
Dude, for me, you know, different story. My parents.
Just different. You didn't grow up in the church?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I did not. So what I remember is my parents were actually Catholic. Like, they found each other Catholic. Like, they did everything. Like, all the steps that you got to take as a Catholic, they did. And that's kind of where they found each other, was
in Cali, though.
In California. Yeah, in California. They found each other in La Placita Alvera. Is in that's
La Placita
Alvera. Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was this. It's in kind of like downtown LA, and that's where they found themselves. And man, for me, when I first kind of like referenced back to, and I was kind of thinking about this like throughout the week, is like, dude, like, where does my like faith kind of start?
The origin story.
Yeah, I remember going to church in Paramount, because that's where we lived, in Paramount, California, and at that time I was big into sports, so I was playing baseball. My dad was my coach, and I would go to church, or I guess to back up a little bit, my mom somehow ended up kind of finding the faith, you know, of Christianity, and my dad was still Catholic. So we kind of had this like divide of like, my dad really didn't go to church. My mom started kind of going to church on Saturdays, and my dad was just not about it. But me playing baseball, you know, my mom was just like, hey, you got to come to church with me.
And most of the games and stuff.
And most of the games were Saturday. So for me, I would go to church. I would go to the kids program in the morning, right? And then after the kids program, I was just waiting for my dad to come pick me up. For my dad to pick me up.
But to play? Or
yeah, to go play baseball. And it wasn't like, oh, we had games, after church. It was like my dad would drive by and be like, hey, let's go. And we would leave. And but that's kind of where my faith started, right?
Did you like going at that age or no? Because you were into that baseball. It was like an obstacle.
Yeah. I think at that time, it's like that's when I started learning more about God. And but I was just not ready. Like I was all about baseball, dude. I was a pitcher, catcher. Like I was doing it all when it came to baseball. So that's kind of where it was going. And then it was really until we moved to Texas, right?
What age did you move down to Texas?
We moved to Texas.
A teenager, no, or 10?
I was in 8th grade. So I was like,
or you're like 13? Yeah,
13. And we came to, like I said, we came to this church. And I think that's where like I joined Pathfinders, and that's where my dedication to my faith started.
Oh, so you like that? You like the club ministries and all that stuff?
Yeah,
so that's what really got you.
Yeah,
into exploring your faith a bit more, right? Because you were exposed to it.
Yeah,
but you didn't really.
Yeah, I think at that time it was just like there was a lot of people, a lot of kids here, so I was connecting, and I think that's where. Like I really started to understand more of like what faith was, who God was, and kind of diving into the whole basis of my faith is like when I moved to Texas.
And Bert, you said something so key to me, and I feel like it's underrated when it comes to church itself. You said you were more willing to experience faith after you found, friends and community and stuff. And that's the importance of community. You know what I'm saying? That's the importance of why we're doing what we're doing. Because since you found those friendships, you were able to explore your faith more. So that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, dude, that's kind of how, like for me, if I explain to people, that's where my story kind of starts, when finding my faith, moving to Texas and kind of diving into church.
So I guess this is the uncomfortable part, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, dude.
Because and when I say it's going to be uncomfortable, Dan, because I like you, I was thinking like, what should I share? What should I share? Because especially I'm gonna tell you this. When I first came to this church, there was like a bad belief. Let's call it a bad belief. It was a stigma.
Yeah.
That pastors needed to be some spiritual superheroes that never struggled, right? So I was kind of motivated to not share too much.
Yeah.
Because they were like, bro, your job is your reputation. And if you like share your dirty past, and they're going to start looking at you like that. So when I was like 20, 21, I would be like, what can I share or what can I not share?
Yeah.
So, and since I started here, that's where I started kind of thinking in my head too, putting like unnecessary pressure on myself. But the more I learned and the more I grew up, the more I talked to people like you, vulnerability is not only a good thing, it's encouraged. Like y'all want to hear that, you know what I'm saying? So it's this is the part where it's going to get kind of messy, but it ends in victory.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
so
for sure.
Was there ever a moment, Danny, and you could answer, I can answer, but was there ever a moment where you struggled with your faith to the point where it probably made you leave it for a second?
Yeah, dude, that's tough.
You gonna tackle that one first, or should I tackle that one?
Maybe you.
You want me to tackle it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Why you think a little bit?
Yeah. No, well, it's because, dude, I think there's just a lot, like you said, there's a lot of seasons that you go through. Yeah. And it's like those seasons sometimes are very long, very short. And it's just like, dude, where do you go to? Like, so yeah, go first.
No, and you're right, because it's, as I'm going to share later, it's seasons. I always compare spirituality to a process.
Yeah.
And, sometimes the process is easy, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
But I guess the moment I decided to leave my faith, and you're like, oh, you just said that you wanted to be a pastor since you were 4 or 5. That doesn't mean that I didn't leave. And crazy when I tell you, Danny, I was an atheist in high school.
What?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. My story doesn't make sense. So it was one of those things, bro, that I grew up, like I said, wanting to be a pastor.
Okay, but like atheist, like to where you were like studying that stuff?
No, atheist as in like I was like cursing God. We're
Mm.
gonna get there. We're gonna
Okay.
get there. I'll say,
Okay.
that's what I was wondering what I wanted to share.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel like this is important to share. But like I wanted to be a pastor. And if you guys go to Hispanic churches, you know, like if a kid wants to be a pastor, they're called the pastorcito, you know. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was preaching since I was 12 years old. I was like, you know, kind of living the, oh, this guy's gonna be a pastor life, you know, since I was very little, very young. But I got to high school and, you know, obviously explored a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And in high school, I guess it was my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
So my senior year, it was kind of the moment where, bro, I'm about to go to college.
Yeah.
That's where like you start your career.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I said, I always wanted to be a pastor. And now I'm in a position where I have to apply to a school to actually be a pastor.
Yeah.
I started freaking out.
Bro.
You know, like I was sure of my calling, but at the same time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it anymore.
Mm.
I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, bro, if I'm a pastor, my life is done. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this. I can't do fun stuff. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Like, and it got, the pressure got to me
Okay.
to the point where I was like, let me have fun this year.
Yeah.
You know? So, bro, when I said my senior year was a blur, brother, it was a blur. You know,
Yeah.
like I started dabbling into drugs, alcohol, parties, to the point where it was just like a regular thing to me. And I didn't care about my future.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to enjoy the now.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused a lot of friction with my family. Like I said, my family was a family that was always very faith oriented. So to see their son, you know, smoking and drinking and skipping class, skipping school, it was just like their world was blown. Especially because my older sister's a goody two shoes. You know, they never struggled with her. I don't know if were you the goody two shoes or
Nah, dude. Nah.
You're looking at your siblings right now. Yeah, bro. So it got to the point where I was like, I kept on fighting with my mom. She was like, you know, stop doing this, stop going out, stop drinking, stop doing that. And I'm like, bro, leave me alone. Leave me alone. And in that process, I was introduced to someone by the name of Richard Dawkins. I don't know if you know who he is.
Mm.
Richard Dawkins is a famous atheist.
Okay.
He wrote this book named The God Delusion.
Okay.
And he also has a documentary, The God Delusion. And at that age, I was like, keep in mind, I went from the kid who always wanted to be the pastor to the kid who was smoking, drinking, going to parties. So now I was more susceptible to things.
Yeah.
You know, so I started watching the documentary and I was like, this makes kind of sense. I was like, bro, I think I might have been brainwashed. You know, I don't, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And it was looking back at it now, I think it was a moment I needed to have.
Okay.
And I know that sounds bad because I was smoking, I was drinking, but that inner dialogue I had with, hey, is this God thing real?
Mm-hmm.
I think I needed to have that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I was wanting to be the pastor for my parents' God
Mm-hmm.
and not for my own relationship with God. So, bro, I was reading his documentaries, reading his articles, watching his documentary, reading his articles, watching his debates. And I was like, bro, you're right. God is not real. You know, so I spent the whole year like, Mom, I'm not going to church. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. She was like, it was kind of like a 180, bro. Like that's how I know it was a spiritual thing, because it was like a complete like one day from another.
Yeah.
And she was like, what happened? What happened? What happened? And I just stopped caring. Didn't apply to Southwestern, which the school that I was supposed to go to. I just kind of said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't believe in God anymore. I don't believe in God anymore. Needless to say, it broke my mom's heart. You know, she still thinks about it to this day. She told me this week, she was like, you are the reason I have ganas. So it's one of those. And yeah, it was one of those times where I was coming home from a party and I was in my atheist stuff, cursing God, literally cursing God, like in front of my parents to prove to them that I don't care.
Oh, wow.
You know, so it was a shock. It was a shock.
Yeah. I'm shocked.
Oh, you were?
I'm shocked. Yeah,
oh,
dude.
No. Yeah. So it was crazy. Yeah, I just remember my family crying a lot at that time. And it was a moment where my mom was like, this can't continue. You know, like, you can't continue to live this way. You can't continue to do these things. You can't continue to disrespect our religion, you know, stuff like that. And I just left. I left and I just started walking. And have you ever felt like the presence of evil in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know it's a tricky question.
Yeah. I was like, what?
You're like, gulp. Oh, wait,
I was like, what?
Yeah, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
No, but So after I had the argument with my mom, like I left the house. I just
Okay.
started walking the streets,
Mhm.
and I had this very negative feeling,
Yeah.
and I was just angry. I was upset. I was confused. I was desperate. And as I was feeling that way, I saw a knife on the street,
Okay.
and all I could hear, like in the back of my head, is just do it.
Mhm.
I was like, bro, I'm happy. I love myself. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? And just do it. Just end it.
Yeah.
You got no purpose. And it was like I was so shook at that moment because I was like, nah, what's going on right now? This is evil.
Yeah.
You know, like this is Satan himself.
Mhm.
And like I ran back home and I said, Mom, I don't know if this God thing is for me yet or not,
Mhm.
but I know the devil is real. So if the devil is real,
Uh-huh.
I gotta hope and pray that God is. You know, and
Yeah.
it's that next day, still being kind of atheist, still being kind
Yeah.
of like unsure of my faith. I did a crazy thing and I applied to Southwestern to be a pastor. You know, so it was
Yeah.
like it's one of those things that moment where I felt evil
Yeah.
made me realize there has to be good.
Yeah.
There has to be good. So I applied at Southwestern, bro, and I went to college.
Yeah.
And that's a different story for
Yeah,
another day
yeah,
because
yeah.
college,
Yeah.
the struggle didn't end there. The
Yeah.
struggle didn't end there. But I know that story got kind of dark.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
But
for sure.
it was a reality that I had to face there,
Mhm.
right there in that moment. That man, this isn't a game.
Yeah.
You know, like the spiritual walk isn't a game. And I guess to kind of wrap everything up, what really helped me make that decision is when I came back to God.
Mhm.
Like after I was wrestling with the, like, are you real? Do you exist? I didn't feel judged by him.
Mhm.
And I think that's what really mattered. Like, I think that's what really set me off the path. Like, I'm going to join this ride, God,
Mhm.
and I'm going to still be imperfect,
Yeah.
but I'm in it.
Yeah.
I'm in it because I didn't feel judged
Mhm.
whatsoever
Yeah.
by God. And that's when I really understood grace. And like I said, I was 18, 17, and now I'm 28, about to be 29.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so there's more to the story, but
Yeah, of
I think
course.
that's the moment I kind of really wanted to share because we really don't like thinking of our pastors, you know, suicidal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't
Yeah,
like thinking of
yeah.
our pastors smoking and drinking, partying. And I'm
Yeah.
like, but that was my past.
Yeah.
That was my reality. That's what I
Mhm.
lived. But God didn't leave me there.
Yeah.
You know? So I think as intense as that story was, it's a story that I'm proud to share
Yeah.
because I wasn't left there.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the importance of stories.
Yeah.
So
No.
I don't know if you got something now or if you're a little too,
Yeah, yeah.
too shook by that or
No, a little bit, dude. I think, you know, when we think about pastors, because I mean, yeah, I think there's a stigma that sometimes, you know, they go, you know, they're following their their parents.
I'm not a PK, by the way.
Yeah. I know, but even then, like, just once you start thinking about pastors, I think it's hard for you to, like, you know, hear these stories and be like, what? What? And I mean, so yeah, I'm a little shook, dude. I didn't know this story. This is the first time I'm hearing this
Really?
story too.
Oh, well, hey.
So, so it's crazy. But I was gonna ask, like, I guess, you know, I'm guessing you've had this conversation with your mom a little
Of
bit,
course,
right?
yeah.
How did she feel, or what was her, like, reaction to it, or whenever you know,
Came
you kind of when you share this with her?
No, and it was a very intimate moment, you know,
Mhm.
because I told her, I was like, hey, Mom, this is what happened. And I was like, I need you to pray to your God, you know, because, and then she started crying. I
Yeah.
started crying. We started hugging. And it was just an intimate moment. And I guess that's a big thing. And I'm glad you asked because not only did I not feel judged by God himself, but like
Yeah.
my mom was like, I don't care about
Yeah.
what happened. I'm
Yeah.
just glad that you're home. You know, and I
Yeah.
think that was impactful to me to know that I had a parent,
Mhm.
both parents, that were just
Yeah.
like, we don't care.
Mhm.
We're just glad that you're here.
Mhm.
And I think through them, I was able to see that grace of God. You know,
Yeah.
that beautiful example of like, hey, you're home. I don't care if you're dirty. I don't care if you smell like alcohol. I don't care if you smell like weed.
Mhm.
You're home.
Yeah.
You know, so
Dude, that's awesome. I'm glad, you know, it's amazing to, you know, I think I relate to that in the sense of, like, your parents are always kind of being there for you, right? And especially when, you know, you have parents within the faith, I think there's just a stronger connection there where you're just like, man, they just you're surprised to in moments where you feel like, man, you did wrong, or you're kind of possibly even disappointing them, and things where they're just like, hey, I still love you. Come here, take you in,
and you
and
know what,
everything
man?
like that.
That transition is, and I always say this whenever I talk to the youth and young adults at the church. I'm like, there has to be a transition from it being your mom's God, your dad's God, to it being your God.
Yeah.
So I think that experience that I lived made it real to me. Like, this is my God.
Yeah.
So
No, that makes sense, dude. Good. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, dude.
no, bro. Hey, we still got more stories in the future, in later episodes. In later
for
episodes,
sure.
But that was like 17, 18-year-old high school Will. But yeah, Danny, like, is there any moment in your life that you could think that brought you to your knees? I know, like, my catalyst was the pressure of perfectionism and being called to ministry. Is there any moment that kind of made you stumble?
Yeah, dude. I think for me, it's and I don't think I mean, I've talked to some people about it, but I think I guess the best way I can explain it is when I came here, right? I got really involved into church. My parents got really involved into church, so I was very involved into Pathfinders, being a deacon, like coming to. I finally realized, like, I was coming to church in the morning and then at night, and enjoying like all day type of thing. And then I think when I think about like a pivotal point in my life where I kind of walked away from God, and I think it had nothing to do with anyone. It was really about me, and like the feeling of the kind of the disappointment that I kind of gave to people. And I say people just because I feel like when I came into church, I was making a lot of friends, making a lot of connections with the pastors and the elders and just the youth in general. Is because when I finally got baptized here, I got baptized with all my family. So all at the same time. My dad got baptized, my mom, my sisters, and five of us. Yeah, we all got baptized.
Pastor was happy that day.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Very happy. So we got baptized, and things kind of happened to where I think I ended up, getting a girlfriend, right? And then when I got my girlfriend at the age of 16, I got her pregnant. And it's not so much about like, when I got them pregnant, it just felt like I disappointed a lot of people, and especially like my parents. And I don't know why, like in that moment, my then transition was I had to figure out how to survive in the sense of like work. Like my parents were always there. Like my parents.
You were 16.
Yeah. My parents were always there. Always willing to be helpful, but it was something within myself that I just, like, I felt like I disappointed people.
It was shame.
Yeah.
Shame.
So I felt shame. And I think like the moment that I can remember just kind of walking away is just where I think, things happen within, they kind of had to announce the whole situation and stuff like that. And I think at that moment is where I started to like kind of walk away from what it was. Because not only did I feel shamed, but I felt like and this was, I think to me, it was more internally, like I was being judged for everything, and everything that I was kind of doing after that was like, I was being looked at.
This is the guy.
Yeah. And I think that's when I just said, okay, like I'm going to stay. But I think for me, it was like, I physically was here, but mentally I wasn't. Because mentally I was not wanting to be here. And I think I was coming because, I was trying to keep my daughter. I had a daughter,
Yeah.
right? I was trying to keep her in church. I was trying to, you know, kind of follow the things that people were telling me. Hey, stay in church, and but still, like I just felt like I wasn't really here, and you know, I was within following the motions of things, but I didn't like it. I don't. I felt like I didn't belong anymore. Um, especially at the church. And it wasn't anything against like church people doing things. I mean, people said this, and that, and I've always kind of had a thing where you know, I kind of let things go very easily. But it was really more deep rooted for me. Like I I think I struggled with that to where you know, and this is at 16.
Yeah, bro, you're in the middle of growing up.
Yeah.
You know?
So I just struggled with that, dude. I think, and that's where I kind of was in and out, walking away from things. And I think, kind of like you, a little bit, I became of the world. Like um, I found my connection through, you know, my work, you know, diving myself into work more, having more friends within, like outside of church, and just kind of relating more and more with them and wanting to be further away from here. And I think that's, you know, with a little bit of that story, right? I think that's where I really was kind of, I moved myself away from here. Okay, and I think my parents and everyone would say, yeah, he was here. Like I would still be here, dude. But mentally, I know I wasn't here.
So you would still come like Saturday to Saturday?
Yeah. Yeah, I would come. I mean, I think there's a time where I stopped coming, but I think for me it was more a mental thing. Like like I said, I was here. I felt like I was here.
But there was no connection, intentionality.
Yeah.
That must have been rough because you were 16.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, dude. It was like, I don't want to say that I was suffering in silence, but like it was just mentally at the age of 16, I just felt like there was a lot of responsibilities that I had, but being at church was just one of those where it was hard to be here.
Do you think it was, and sorry if I'm digging, but
Go for it, bro.
do you think it was the shame that didn't let you connect?
Mm-hmm.
But shame to your parents, shame to God, like what?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it hurt me the most with my mom. I mean, my mom and my dad. Like, but even just coming to church, it was hard because I think I brought shame to my family in a way.
So you felt like it just didn't affect your decision. Didn't just affect you. It was like your whole world.
Yeah.
Your whole world.
Yeah. And then from there, I kind of like you, man. I felt like that kind of ate me a lot to where I was like, man, like I didn't feel the love of God anymore. Like I felt like I didn't love him, and I felt like he didn't love me. Because in a way, I felt like that shame that I felt was also disappointment with God.
Yeah, bro. And that shame, that's why shame is so dangerous, because it starts, you kind of start resenting God and his community.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, like I said, I didn't really know your story as well as you're telling it right now.
Yeah.
And just to think that 16-year-old Danny,
Yeah.
you know, what grade are you in 16? You're like in 10th grade?
I was in like freshman because I actually
You were a freshman?
Yeah, because I actually started school early because of my birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started, and being in California, we were able to start early. So I was, I think I was a freshman, sophomore year.
So it really hurts me, the fact that like you, there's probably people who are here, but not here.
Yeah.
And no one asks them, how are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you dealing with? Because, bro, you're a 16-year-old dealing with the thought of you shaming God, shaming your parents, Your life has changed.
Yeah.
You have a daughter now. You have a family now.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So I guess this is going to be the transition because I'm very curious to ask you this because I don't know
Yeah,
how
yeah.
you're going to answer this. How did you find your way home?
Dude.
Because you're telling me like you were mad at God, shamed, like you just disconnected. You didn't love him. He didn't love you.
Mm-hmm.
And now to see you here,
Yeah.
you know, like how does that happen?
Dude. That's tough. That's tough. I think that's where, you go through life, going through a lot of things. Because to be honest with you, man, I got rebaptized, and I can't really recall when I got rebaptized because I think I know that when I did it, I did it for God. Like I know in my heart that I did it for God because I was just still struggling with that battle of things. Like I was getting older and older, but I was like, man, like I know that I have to get back into that relationship with him. And I think for me, that was my like step of like, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do it right. And I'm gonna do it by getting baptized. And I think
What made you feel that way though? That the need to want to get rebaptized.
I think just the distance, the disconnect with him.
So you didn't like it.
Yeah, I think after a while, there was just so much disconnect from him, and I think that's when I started kind of removing myself and stop worrying about what others were thinking about me or the way that I felt others were thinking about me. And I was like, hey man, this relationship isn't for like you said, your parents, right? Your parents' God. He's my God,
mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's where I started to like just have moments in life where I was just struggling and I wanted to hear God. Like I wanted to know and hear him and just have that relationship that I just felt like, man, to this day, I probably wasn't ready to get baptized, to be honest with you. But I was like, that to me was like my way of saying, I need to, because this is the only way I'm going to continue to get saved.
Why do you say you weren't ready though?
Because it was still tough, dude. It was still tough. Like it was still hard to kind of go through a lot of the things that, being a father at a young age, you're growing up, and there's still a lot of growing up to do. That I just felt like I wasn't like it was hard to say that like, yeah, I'm there, I'm fully there and everything, but to me it was an action that I took that said, hey God, I don't want you to leave me. And to me that's and I was still young. I can't even, like I said, I don't even know the age I got baptized, but I think I was like around 19, 20 when I did it again.
Bro, I don't think you realize how powerful the statement you just said.
Yeah.
Because that is the point. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I wanted to ask, like, why you didn't feel ready? Because what you told me tells me everything I needed to know. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey God, I don't want you to leave me.
No.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that to me is like such an important step because you had that disconnect, like you said. And you got to a point where you like, I don't want you to leave me.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that process that you went through, even though you said I wasn't there, I wasn't ready, that was you. That was you seeking God, and that's all we can do.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. So I don't think you understand how powerful it is what you just said.
Yeah, man.
God, I don't want you to leave me.
Yeah. I didn't, dude. I didn't. Like I did not want him. And now growing up now, dude, like and that's just a little bit of it, like you were saying. I think recently it came down to like I wanted to get more involved. And especially after talking to you and just being more present, especially now with my kids, right? I have 3 kids now, fourth one on the
I was
way.
about to say.
Fourth one on the way. I realized that the more present I am and the closer I am with him, it just it affects everything else, like
course.
your daily life, your family, and everything like that. To where I just really want to, and I have a stronger presence within the church, within our community, to really just just have moments like this, conversations like this, where people just understand, or like get to know us as a community, and just be able to relate to the struggle that everyone has out there.
Bro, and what you said, understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and this is why community is important, because you said, I want to be able to understand. And I feel like you caught yourself with that.
Yeah.
Because what we're trying to do at the Oak Cliff Church is build a community where another 16-year-old goes through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's met with hugs,
Yeah.
love, embrace, understanding. And that's why it's important for people like you to be here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's why it's important for people like you to accept this calling, because kids suffer these days.
Yeah.
You suffered at 16, feeling that shame. Imagine you talking to a 16, 15, 17-year-old saying like, hey, you messed up, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Like
Yeah.
that. And I think that's why this ministry is so important.
Yeah.
To hear that, hey, my pastor was suicidal.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny felt shame and disconnect. But the fact that you feel like that you were able to say at 19, like, God, I don't want you to leave me.
Mm-hmm.
That's finding home.
Yeah.
That's finding home, bro.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
I love that.
What about you, brother?
No, and I guess this, me finding home will kind of serve as a wrap up for our stories.
Yeah.
Because what really helped me, and I think it's also applicable to your story, is when I found out that my spirituality isn't a destination.
Okay.
We like to think that, hey, if I'm spiritual, that means I'm there. I got it together. I'm there. We all see those OGs at church. They're like, oh man, this guy never sins.
Yeah.
But the reality is that spirituality isn't a destination. It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process.
Yeah.
And when I discovered that it was a process, it changed my life forever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I want to be serving a God that doesn't see my flaws as game over,
Mm-hmm.
but just as something to prove his greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, I'm not just saying it to say it, we're biblical.
Yeah.
Proverbs 24:16.
Mm-hmm.
It says, but the righteous man falls down 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that to me I say that verse to myself every day, because it says the righteous man falls down 7. The righteous, it doesn't say that the imperfect man. It doesn't say that it doesn't say that the alcoholic or the drug addict. It says that the righteous man.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way we can be righteous is if we have Christ.
Yeah.
So if the righteous man falls down, he gets up.
Yeah.
And that tells me everything I need to know about spirituality and finding home.
Mm-hmm.
Is that once you have Christ, he will walk you through the process until he comes.
Yeah.
He will walk you through the process until he comes. And that was a freeing moment for me. And not free like, oh, I'm free to sin, free to do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That freedom that only Christ can give, that peace that only Christ can give, is to know that it's a process.
Yeah.
And that's why these stories are so impactful.
Yeah.
Because it shows that everybody is going through a process.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going through a spiritual journey. And we may not know the Dannys that are sitting in our pews, the Wilfredos that are sitting in the pews. And we need to have this platform
mm-hmm.
to remind them that if you fall, God's there to pick you up.
Yeah.
God's there to put that feeling in your heart. That feeling you had in your heart,
mm-hmm.
that was God saying, hey, Danny, I know you don't want to leave me. I don't want to leave you.
Yeah.
And like you, there's people there who are probably feeling that shame, like me, feeling the suicidal thoughts. Well, guess what? His righteous get up. Not by our strength, our power, but by his. And that's kind of how I guess I found my way home. The journey of knowing that I don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
I can literally just be me.
Mm-hmm.
and give myself to Christ,
Yeah.
and that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah. I think you were preaching about this one time where, that walk with faith, is like that walk, dude. There's walking in faith, or I guess I would say like, just to have faith is to have faith, but that walk with faith is understanding that you're going to go through these processes, through these seasons, through these situations where at the end you're still having that faith in God, saying, hey, like it's just at that point where like, I'm just going to give it to him, let him take it, let him handle it, because he's going to help me get to where I need to get to.
Yeah, that's surrender.
Yeah.
That's surrender.
Yeah.
That's surrender.
Yeah.
And when we surrender,
Mm-hmm.
it's where we find home.
Yeah.
And that's the point of the podcast, bro. And I know it got intense. It got kind of. I didn't know your story like that, and I know you didn't know my story like that.
Of course.
And like every time we post a pod, it's gonna be this, talking and getting to know each other, and hopefully with this experience, we realize that we aren't alone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's a home in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
There's hope in Christ. There's redemption in Christ, and that your story,
mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be ashamed of it.
Yeah.
Because it's Christ winning in your life.
Yeah.
Winning in your life.
Yeah, dude. I agree with you, dude. I think we're in for a journey.
Yeah.
And I think, at the end, it got quiet too and everything. We were just talking to each other, dude.
That's the point. Having conversations.
And I don't know, dude. I think, I think we're going to go places with this. And I think really, like you said, it's just I'm trying to just reconnect people with God through the stories that we're doing.
You feeling closer?
Yeah, for sure.
No, but we're gonna have a fun time. We're gonna have a fun time getting to know each other better, and of also course the people of our community. And bro, that's a good first episode.
Yeah,
that's a good first episode. So? It's deep first episode.
Yeah.
But I think it's important also that we introduce the people who are going to be helping us in this project.
Of course, dude. It's a team effort, dude.
Team effort.
Team effort.
And I don't know how you want to do this.
I don't know. I didn't think about this.
All right, so
I know we talked about it, but we didn't think about how we wanted to do it.
First of all, I know Gary is doing some camera stuff, but Gary, just walk real quick right here, bro.
Yeah, Gary.
Gary's my guy.
Gary's the guy.
Oh yeah,
the guy.
The guy.
The guy.
It's gonna be Gary out here helping us with the camera stuff. He's part of our community, and he's gonna be helping us. Isaac, come up here as well. Isaac's also the tech. We call him the tech team.
The tech guys. The tech.
The period? No, yeah. And then we have to complete the team, we're gonna have the trifecta of the Farrans here.
Oh yeah.
We have Natalie Farran and Diana Farran. They're Danny's sisters.
Yeah. Dude, these are the producers of this thing, dude. They're the ones that helped us set, kind of the agenda for today, the plans for today, and
Nat's still worried about the visuals.
Yeah.
That's how you know we have a good producer, a good team.
Yeah.
So this is the podcasting. We're gonna look to expand as well. Add more people, but this is gonna be the team that are part of this ministry.
Yeah.
And this is ministry, like I said. So if you guys are interested in telling your story, you guys are interested in being part of this movement, being part of this community, let us know, because we'd like to know how you found home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, faith on home.
Found Faith. Found Faith podcast. But yeah, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, dude. How are we going to do that? We said we were going to sign off, but see you later.
Thank you guys for being with us in the first episode of the Found Faith podcast.
We got to clap it up every time.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. And stick around for episode 2, where we start actually interviewing the people of our community. But thank you guys for joining us.
Peace, guys.
That was good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Bro, you almost made me cry.
No.
Yeah.
Why?
I stopped myself. I stopped myself, bro.